So let's
Okay.
start out with how you started in ACSP and how you got involved in the board.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I was a graduate student. I think it was 1992. I started coming to ACSP to present papers, and the fabulous 93 in, I think, Arizona. ACSP actually was organizing a lot of trips. And 96, I went to Cuba with the ACSP conference right after Tallahassee. So we should do more of that. That's one of my plans too. Anyway, I'm just joking. Um, and the way I got involved with the board was actually, JPER, the Journal of Planning, Education, and Research. Mike Hibbard calls it. Do you want to apply to become the editor? I'm like, what? Never thought about it. But it was just the right decision that I made. You really get to know so many planning scholars and a fabulous sort of community of scholars. And you also feel that, I don't do a lot of work that could be considered to be the core of planning, but planning really needs to expand. And so that's the vehicle. So as a JPER editor, I was ex officio, right, of the governing board. And so you get to also observe how the governing board functions, how the executive committee functions. And it's just really, really intriguing. You have a group of people, I guess they don't have anything better to do, totally volunteer, and then totally have this sense of community and this sense of collective making something better, making our work, making our large field, making cities, in a large sense better. So I couldn't say I was hooked, but I remember Cheryl was telling me when I finished the editorial term, saying, do you want to do more? Do you think you want to do more? I said, no, I need a break. So the only year I believe I didn't come to ACSP was right after I finished my editorial term. So I didn't come, but after that, I was continuously involved. But actually, I also was involved with the global group, which is something that I see as for the future, right? So yesterday we had this really, really nice group of people, again, volunteers, on the review and appraisal committee, which is really helping me to frame the agenda for the next presidency. And I was just so happy to see. I was there 5 to 7 o'clock in the morning. 4 people were already there. By 7:05, all my 14 people were there for the committee. It was just energetic, the younger generation. So I think the biggest thing, for ACSP, as a number of the previous presidents have already said, is to really try to see how ACSP is moving towards a newer generations of scholars. Not just because of age, because these newer generations are diverse in their viewpoints, are diverse in their backgrounds of what they have done. They are diverse in their viewpoints. You actually see quite a bit sort of Generation X in a sense of much more strong sense of social justice, much more strong sense of equity, and I think we need to take advantage of that. But there's definitely communications and other types of distance between the older and the younger generation. So I think the one big item on the board is really to make sure ACSP moves to the next generations very proactively. Smoothly is not the right word. There will be conflicts, there will be difficult conversations, but we need to find ways to work together. And then the second thing I would say is this new generation or generations are also much more global. And we have scholars from a variety of different backgrounds, and their research and work focus on different types of countries, regions, problems, and people. They look at displacement of people from the Middle East. They look at undocumented immigrants from Mexico or from other parts of Latin America. And so to really make planning more global in its curriculum, in its target of education, meaning our students, and we have a lot more international students coming, and really to make sure our education provides a really value-added experience for these students, and then go out there to really begin to embrace the problems of cities not just in the US, but elsewhere. Third item, I think, is diversity. And this diversity really actually tag along in a sense or connect really well with the international and global face of the organization, because diversity isn't just about the demographics. It's also about the diversity of views, diversity of cultural backgrounds, diversity of the types of issues that will be present in the planning. Last but not least, when Vivo just mentioned in the plenary speech, the public face of planning, the public presence of planning as a field. And we really feel that next time when an urban issue breaks out, be it water, be it infrastructure, that the press, the decision-making bodies at various different levels of government will come more often to ACSP, to the planners, because we really know the sources of the problems. We also are good at looking for options to resolve the problems. So ACSP needs to be much more proactive, to both in terms of individual scholars in ACSP, but also in terms of the large organization together to increase our presence in the general public, let's say, news medias, but also the policy circle, let's say the decision-making bodies in DC at the various state levels, and to really increase that presence. So I think that's what I have hope, and we'll work very hard together with many, many colleagues in the next 2 to 3 years, I think. So
that's a big agenda to take on. Me personally, I feel like listening to that, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to make that happen? That public presence, so that ACSP is seen as the resource and guide. So I'm fascinated to watch how Lois and you and your successors
yeah, it will take number of presidencies to get there, and we also need to provide some trainings for our scholars. We can write well, but can we write op-ed really well, right? And we want to also make connections to newspaper editors. It'll have to, just like always, ACSP draws from the wealth of knowledge and connections of our individual members, and we'll have to just to do that. And I think the younger generations are so hooked onto media and savvy. I think we can do it.
Good.
It'll take more than a village, I guess.
It will take a village. Any last thoughts for people who might be watching the video? What you would say to them?
Well, I would say, planning, I came to planning as an architecture student. And I think for those of you who are thinking about planning, the students, coming to the master's program, the PhD program, planning is such a wonderful, in a sense, possibility of bridging your interests in cities, your interests maybe in the elements of cities like the architecture, and then the people of the city together. It's a very, very intriguing and promising field. I'm doing the pitch.
That's great.